This is a pharaoh cuttlefish. They and other species of cuttlefish live in reefs all over the world. Cuttlefish are cephalopods, which basically means that they live in water, have bilateral symmetry, a big head, and tentacles. Cuttlefish are kind of like squid. They can change color to blend in with their surroundings, and they squirt ink to escape and confuse predators. These unique, weird-looking creatures eat small fish and shrimp, who also eat plankton and algae within the reefs. Plankton and algae are the reason that coral is so colorful. They are also the main food source for most herbivores in the reef. If so many creatures eat plankton and algae, my question is what happens if plankton and algae in the reefs die? Well, the coral will lose its color. The shrimp and fish that rely on the plankton and algae to eat will also die. Larger organisms, such as cuttlefish, won't get enough food either, so they will also die. Basically, the entire coral reef ecosystem will collapse. As you sit here during this video, ocean temperatures are changing. If ocean temperatures increase too much, it will bleach plankton and algae, turning colorful landscapes, like the one on the left, into pale ones, like the one on your right. Bleached coral isn't necessarily dead coral, but 85% of bleached coral dies. Without coral, reefs cannot sustain life. So if coral dies, it will cause the decimation of numerous species throughout many oceans. Even though coral bleaching doesn't kill coral, other factors like heavy storms, pollution, overfishing, and sedimentation easily kill coral that has been damaged by bleaching. This, in my opinion, is a really good example of what Rob Nixon calls slow violence. Slow violence is violence against nature that is too slow to make headline news, but will have a major impact on the environment over time. This includes deforestation, the melting of polar ice caps, and of course, coral bleaching. According to this map, the yellow dots show where coral bleaching occurs. Many of these places are popular tourist locations in Central America and the Caribbean. Fragile ecosystems will not be the only things that get hurt if coral dies. The economies of nations that rely heavily upon tourism will also plummet if the coral reefs are no longer fit to be shown to tourists. Many countries don't have direct access to coral reefs. As shown by this map, the red areas are where major coral reefs are, and a lot of large countries don't have access to them. Because of this, coral bleaching becomes more of an environmental afterthought than when compared to the smog that is literally taking over our backyards. Nixon's Scenes from a Seabed helps illustrate how governments tend to care more about environmental issues that directly affect their nations, such as rising sea levels in the Pacific Islands and the melting of polar ice caps in Alaska and Russia. So what can be done? Well, since coral bleaching doesn't immediately kill coral, if the environmental stressors that are killing the weakened coral are reduced, then reefs can become more resilient. Sedimentation is an environmental stressor. It is usually caused by motorboats and divers and swimmers, kicking up dirt and sand blocking sunlight. Simply regulating tourism can help reduce sedimentation. Many pollutants that affect coral reefs are fertilizers and runoffs from nearby farms. If fertilizers are made more eco-friendly and runoffs are directed away from coral reefs, the survival rate of these reefs would increase. Another environmental stressor is overfishing, which destroys the natural food chain that exists within coral reefs. Setting 30 to 50% of coral reefs up to be no fishing zones would allow fish populations to bounce back and reach equilibrium once again. Okay, so coral reefs are dying, and it's really sad. But what should anyone do about it? Why should anyone care enough to help implement solutions that could help save the reefs from their own slow destruction? Well, coral reefs house 25% of all marine life, and 50% of all life on Earth are in the ocean. Reefs also protect nearby land masses from incoming waves, saving millions of dollars in property value every single year. Coral reefs can teach us about fragile ecosystems all over the world. Reefs are excellent examples of how different organisms are dependent and interdependent upon one another for every species' survival. Once our reefs are happy and healthy, unique creatures such as pharaoh cuttlefish will be able to flourish and inspire future generations to help save the coral reefs as well.